In this video I'm going to talk about amazing dung beetles and how they can revolutionise how you manage horse manure. You might not even have heard about dung beetles before, but by the end of this short video you should be just as excited about them as we are. We, Stuart and I, Equiculture, specialise in the subject of equine grazing behaviour. We've worked with horses and their owners in many countries all around the world. I, Jane, carried out research about the grazing behaviour of horses at the University of Edinburgh, and together we're the authors of several books that teach you how to keep your horses healthy and happy, save you time and money, and do good things for the environment all at the same time. A win-win-win when you get it right. Harnessing the power of dung beetles means that you are taking an integrated approach to manure management. This means that instead of simply using chemicals or machinery, you're using the amazing power of nature. Nature, after all, already has the solutions. Dung beetles are how the problem of manure is managed in the wild. In fact, in nature, dung is not a problem at all. It's a vital component in the circle of life. Grazing animals turn plants into manure. Dung beetles take that manure back into the soil. The nutrients from that manure helps to grow more plants for animals to graze, and so on. If dung beetles did not exist, the surface of the earth would be covered in deep manure. In fact, grazing animals would not have been able to evolve and survive and thrive without dung beetles. That's how important they are. So the way we traditionally manage manure in the domestic situation is not sustainable because, on most horse properties at least, it involves getting rid of the manure as if it's something bad. Manure should actually be thought of as black gold, and dung beetles allow you to utilise that black gold to the full and for free. But dung beetles have many other benefits too. Dung beetles massively reduce parasites in horses and other grazing animals, so they reduce chemical worming or anthelmintic usage. This is because they take the manure underground and the parasitic worm larvae with it. The larvae have no way to get back to the surface. In addition, any hatched worms in the manure that's left on the surface tend to die as the manure pat dries out. So dung beetles dramatically reduce parasitic worms on a horse property, or indeed anywhere that animals graze. Please be sure to give this video the thumbs up, and if you'd like to become a more knowledgeable horse owner, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to be notified when a new video becomes available. Dung beetles massively reduce flies on a horse property or a farm. Flies need intact piles of manure to carry out their life cycle. When that manure is taken underground, they lose their habitat. Even the fine desiccated manure that dung beetles leave above ground soon dries out and is not fit for purpose for flies. In addition, some dung beetle species eat fly larvae, reducing the fly population even further. Dung beetles greatly improve the soil by aerating it, due to their tunnelling behaviour, which in turn allows other beneficial invertebrates such as earthworms to work the soil. Earthworms cannot work in hard, compacted soil, which is common on horse properties. When dung beetles are working, somehow earthworms get a memo that the soil is now easier to work, and they arrive and carry out their own form of magic in the soil. This tunnelling behaviour also allows more water, much more, to get into the soil rather than run off. So this reduces flooding, topsoil loss, and improves the soil at the same time. Dung beetles result in taller, healthier plants that also sequester more carbon. Due to the soil being less compacted, the pasture plants can now grow much longer roots, which in turn sequesters or deposits more carbon in the soil. So dung beetles are helping in the fight against climate change. The roots also go deeper because they're seeking out the nutrients that the dung beetles have taken down deep into the soil. Plants that have longer root systems grow taller above ground. Pasture plants that are continuously growing tall, then being grazed back, followed by a period of rest so that they can grow tall again, are healthier, that's lower in sugar, and sequester carbon rapidly. Yes, trees are good at this, sequestering carbon, but pasture that is managed well is even better. Dung beetles have another climate change plus point. Because they disturb a dung pat or pile, they aerate it, and this reduces methane gas production. Methane, a very dangerous greenhouse gas, is a huge problem with regards to climate change, particularly with the manure of cattle, but also horses. Dung beetles reduce pollution in the waterways in 3 ways. 1. The denser, healthier, taller pasture plants become a better physical barrier as they filter, trap any nutrients before they get into the waterways. 2. Because manure is taken underground by the dung beetles, there's less to wash into the waterways. And 3. Less or no fertiliser is needed due to better utilisation of manure as a fertiliser, therefore less or no fertiliser to wash into the waterways. Dung beetles save you time and money. When dung beetles are working, there's no need to pick up or harrow manure. In fact, if you do, you're doing the dung beetles a disservice. And remember, nothing you do with manure comes even close to what dung beetles, the world's manure management experts, can do with it. If previously you were spending money on disposing of your black gold, you no longer have to do this. Your land should grow more feed for the horses and other animals, and you should also save money on fertilising your land in the future. Dung beetles improve the aesthetics of your land and increase the productivity. By taking manure piles below ground, dung beetles reduce and can even eliminate the typical dunging behaviour of horses. This behaviour, peculiar to horses, means that they drop manure in specific toilet areas within the paddock, called roughs. They will not graze the roughs and instead grazing what are termed the lawns. This leads to a paddock having uneven grazing, and over time a large percentage of the land becomes unavailable for grazing to the horses. So think about that. If you're buying or renting that land, you're paying for land that's not even available for grazing to the horses. Horses use the presence of intact piles of manure to tell them where the toilet areas are. So when dung beetles are working, especially tunnellers, these toilet areas don't become so established, if at all. In conjunction with rotational grazing and cross or mixed grazing if and when possible, this can mean that there's now even grazing across the paddock. Sustainability in action. Dung beetles clear the way for more grass to grow. Unless you're picking up manure or harrowing it, which involves dragging or towing an implement to break up the manure, manure will simply sit on the surface of the soil for months, and sometimes, depending on weather conditions, for years. These manure pads physically prevent pasture plants from regrowing. Think about cow pats in particular, how they just stay there on the surface. Different countries and regions are at different stages when it comes to the availability of dung beetles. In many cases, acquiring dung beetles simply means changing a few management strategies. You may only need to provide the correct environment and they will arrive. You can learn much more about dung beetles in the links that go with this video. These links are being added to over time, so make sure you check them out. We have a free mini course about horses, pasture and grazing. This short video course will get you started on the subject of sustainable horsekeeping. You'll learn about how you can save money, time and energy when keeping horses. You'll also learn about some of the things that are really important to your horse and about how you and your horses can help to save the environment, so make sure you sign up. If you've enjoyed this video, please let us know by liking it. Subscribe and share with your fellow horsey friends, and please leave a comment with what you found interesting. If you're interested in learning more about better horse management by learning about what is really important to your horse, we also have a private Facebook group, but do the free course first and see if this interests you.